What's up, chat? Today we have on a but on I'm not in frame. I did not realize I didn't have my camera not turned on. But it's cool. Today we got on a collar shirt today though. You know, I don't wear these very often. It's pretty funny. Um, but today, chat. Today is day 232 in a row. Um, and yeah, 232 days in a row of our 1 year Bible read. It's crazy. 232 days in a row. It's been 232 days. I think that's the biggest thing to think about here. It's been 232 days. It's been 232 days. Sometimes, chat, I'm not gonna lie. Amen. And sometimes I wonder, chat, I wonder, like, you know, I've been reading for 232 days in a row. Sometimes I get upset with myself because I'm not further along as I expect to be, as far along as I expect to be. It's such an interesting feeling. It's so crazy. But hey, I think that's really what the main reason I decided to do this twice instead of just doing this one time. Um, mm, truly. But I feel like I really need to learn how to be a little nicer to myself. I definitely need to learn how to be a little nicer to myself. I'm kind of like sorry, this is like a brief before we get into our read today. Kind of sometimes I feel like I'm like fake nice to myself. You know, um, to like if I don't know. So I really don't know. Just sometimes I just feel I definitely should be nicer to myself. And I don't truly appreciate the fact that I've done this for 232 days in a row, to be honest. I don't think I've quite actually taken this in. I think maybe because I don't want to like count my ducks before they hatch, or count my eggs before I said ducks, count my eggs before they hatch, right? And I want to be able to finish the whole 365. But if there's something I'm gonna be nicer to myself about doing, right? It should definitely be that I've done this every day this year, like I said I was going to do. No matter what's happened, no matter there's been several times where we got the stream started at 11:59, where we were traveling somewhere and we started the stream at 11:59, but we still got the streak going. We still read every day. We still made a way to read every day, right? And I don't think I truly appreciate that enough. You know, God has made a way every single day for me to be able to read, and I've also stuck to it myself. And I don't appreciate the fact that I also had to stick to doing this myself. So maybe as I'm taking this in and realizing that this is 200, this is day 232, and maybe I'll actually take in that and be just a little nicer to myself. Actually nicer to myself, like actually. Not like fake nice, but like actually nicer to myself. But sorry. Sorry. Sorry about that, chat. Sorry about that, chat. Um, um, let's go. Let's let's get into today's read. Today is day 232 in a row of our 1 year Bible read on the Limitless Core channel. Um, we're 2 days early, so we read it from 8:20 instead of 8:18 because we started 2 days early. Um, and today's read is coming from Esther 8:1 through 10, and then 1 Corinthians 12:27 through 13, and then Psalms 37:1 through 11, and then Proverbs 21:23 through 24 to wrap the night's read. Oh, nice. And without further ado, chat, let's get into today's read for day 232 in a row. Like we said before, we're doing this for 365 days. So if you want to join us um, in this journey for 365 days, by all means, subscribe, turn on like, and turn on post notifications. And without further ado, Esther 8:1 through 10, going through verse 3. On that same day, King Xerxes gave the property to Haman, the enemy of the Jews, to Queen Esther. Then Mordecai was brought before the king, for Esther had told the king how they were related. The king took off his signet ring, which he had taken back from Haman, and gave it to Mordecai. And Esther appointed Mordecai to be in charge of Haman's property. Then Esther went again before the king, falling down at his feet and begging with tears to stop the evil plot devised by Haman, the Agagite, against the Jews. Again the king held out the gold scepter to Esther, so she rose and stood before him. Esther said, "If it please the king, and if I have found favor with him, and if he thinks it is right, and if I am pleasing to him, let there be a decree that reverses the orders of Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, who ordered that the Jews throughout all the king's provinces be destroyed. For how can I endure to see my people and my family slaughtered and destroyed?" Then King Xerxes said to Queen Esther and Mordecai the Jew, "I have given Esther the property of Haman, and she has been impaled, and he has been impaled on a pole because he tried to destroy the Jews. Now go ahead and send a message to the Jews in the king's name, telling them whatever you want, and seal it with the king's signet ring. But remember that whatever has already been written in the king's name and sealed with a signet ring can never be revoked." So on June 25th, the king's secretaries were summoned, and a decree was written exactly as Mordecai dictated. It was sent to the Jews and to the highest officers, the governors, and the nobles of all the 120 provinces stretching from India to Ethiopia. The decree was written in the scripts and languages of all the peoples of the empire, including that of the Jews. The decree was written in the name of King Xerxes and sealed with the king's signet ring. And Mordecai sent the dispatches by swift messengers who rode fast horses, especially bred for the king's service. The king's decree gave the Jews in every city authority to unite to defend their lives. They were allowed to kill, slaughter, and annihilate anyone of any nationality or province who might attack them or their children and wives, and to take the property of their enemies. The day chosen for this event throughout all the provinces of King Xerxes was March the 7th of the next year. How you doing, Haley? A copy of this decree was to be issued as law in every province and proclaimed to all peoples, so that the Jews will be ready to take revenge on their enemies and on the appointed day. So urged on by the king's command, the messengers rode out swiftly on fast horses, bred for the king's service. The same decree was also proclaimed in the fortress of Susa. Then Mordecai left the king's presence, wearing the royal robe of blue and white, the great crown of gold, and the outer cloak of the fine linen and purple. And the people of Susa celebrated the new decree. The Jews were filled with joy and gladness, and were honored everywhere. In every province and city, wherever the king's decree arrived, the Jews rejoiced and had a great celebration and declared a public festival and holiday. And many of the people of the land became Jews themselves, for they felt that the Jews might do to them. So on March 7th, the two decrees of the king were put into effect. On that day, the enemies of the Jews had hoped to overpower them, but quite the opposite happened. It was the Jews who overpowered their enemies. The Jews gathered in their cities throughout all the king's provinces to attack anyone who tried to harm them. But no one could make a stand against them, for everyone was afraid of them, and all the nobles of the provinces, The highest officers, the governors, and the royal officials helped the Jews for the fear of Mordecai. For Mordecai had been promoted in the king's palace, and his fame spread through all the provinces as he became more and more powerful. So the Jews went ahead on the appointed day and struck down their enemies with the sword. They killed and annihilated their enemies and did as they pleased with those who hated them. In the fortress of Susa itself, the Jews killed 500 men. They also killed Parishandatha, Dalphon, Asaphtha, Paratha, Adalia, Adritha, Parmishata, Harisa, Adrida, and Barisatha, the 10 sons of Ammon, son of Hamidatha, the enemies of the Jews. But they did not take any plunder. The very day when the king was informed of the number of people killed in the fortress of Susa, he called for Queen Esther. He said the Jews had killed 500 men in the fortress of Susa alone, as well as Haman's 10 sons. If they had done that here, what has happened in the rest of the provinces? But now, what more do you want? It will be granted to you. Tell me, and I will do it. Esther responded, if it pleases the king, give the Jews in Susa permission to do again tomorrow, as they've done today. Let the bodies of Haman's 10 sons be impaled on the pole. So the king agreed, and the decree was announced in Susa, and they impaled the bodies of Haman's 10 sons. Then the Jews of Susa gathered together on March 8th and killed 300 more men, and again they took the plunder. Meanwhile, the other Jews throughout the king's provinces had gathered together to defend their lives. They gained relief from all their enemies, killing 75,000 of those who hated them. But they did not take any plunder. This was done throughout the provinces on March 7th, and on March 8th they rested, celebrating their victory with a day of feasting and gladness. The Jews of Susa killed their enemies on March 7th and again on March 8th and rested on March 9th, making their day of feasting and gladness. So to this day, rural Jews lived in remote villages, celebrated an annual festival and holiday on the appointed day in the late winter, when they rejoiced and sent gifts of food to each other. Mordecai recorded these events and sent letters to the Jews near and far through all the provinces of King Xerxes, calling on them to celebrate annual festival on these 2 days. He told them to celebrate these days with feasting and gladness by giving gifts of food to each other and presents to the poor. This will commemorate a time when the Jews gained relief from their enemies, when their sorrow was turned into gladness and their mourning into joy. So the Jews accepted Mordecai's proposal and adopted this annual custom. Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews, had plotted to crush and destroy them on this day, determined by the casting lots. But when Esther came before the king, he issued a decree causing Haman's evil plot to backfire, and Haman and his sons were impaled on a sharpened pole. That is why this celebration is called Purim, because it is an ancient word for casting lots. So because of Mordecai's letter and because of what they had experienced, the Jews throughout the realm agreed to inaugurate this tradition and pass it on to their descendants and to all who became Jews. They declared they would never fail to celebrate these 2 prescribed days at the appointed time each year. These days would be remembered and kept from generation to generation and celebrated by every family throughout the provinces and cities of the empire. This festival of Purim would never cease to celebrate among the Jews, nor would the memory of what happened ever die out among their descendants. Then Queen Esther, the daughter of Abihail, along with Mordecai the Jew, wrote another letter putting the queen's full authority behind Mordecai's letter to establish the festival of Purim. Letters wishing peace and security were sent to the Jews throughout the 127 provinces of the empire of Xerxes. These letters established the festival of Purim, an annual celebration of these days at the appointed time, decreed by both Mordecai and the Jew and Queen Esther. The people decided to observe this festival, decided for themselves and their descendants to establish the times of fasting and mourning. So the command of Esther confirmed the practices of Purim as it was written down in the records. King Xerxes imposed a tribute throughout his empire, even to the distant coastlands. His great achievements and all full account of the greatness of Mordecai, whom the king had promoted, are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Media and Persia. Mordecai the Jew became the prime minister with authority next to that of King Xerxes himself. He was very great among the Jews, who held him in high esteem, because he continued to work for good of his people and to speak up for the welfare of all their descendants. That was a lot. My head kind of hurts from reading that. I didn't like all the killing, bro. See, that conflicts with me, bro. I'm not gonna lie. See, I thought we were supposed to turn the shoulder. But this is ignorance speaking. I'm not gonna lie. This is ignorance speaking right now. Oh, okay. 1 Corinthians 12:27 through 13. All of you together are Christ's body, and each of you is part of it. Here are some of the parts that God has appointed for the church. First are apostles, second are prophets, third are teachers, then those who do miracles, those who have the gift of healing, those who can help others, those who have the gift of leadership, and those who speak in unknown languages. Are we all apostles? Are we all prophets? Are we all teachers? Do we have the power to do miracles? Do we have the gift of healing? Do we all have the ability to speak in unknown languages? Do we all have the ability to interpret unknown languages? Of course not. So you should earnestly desire the most helpful gift. But now let me show you a way of life that is best of all. If I could speak all the language of earth, of the angels, but I didn't love others, I would only be a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I had the gift of prophecy, and if I understood all of God's secret plans and possessed all knowledge, and if I had such faith that I could move mountains but didn't love others, I would be nothing. If I gave everything I have to be poor and even sacrificed my body, I could boast about it, but if I didn't love others, I would have gained nothing. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. Prophecy and speaking in unknown languages and special language will become useless, but love will last forever. Now our knowledge is partial and incomplete, and even the gift of prophecy reveals only part of the whole picture. But when the time of perfection comes, these partial things will become useless. When I was a child, I spoke and thought and reasoned as a child. But when I grew up, I put away childish things. Now we see things imperfectly, like puzzling reflections in a mirror. But then we will see everything with perfect clarity. All that I know now is that partial and incomplete, but then I will know everything completely, just as God knows me completely. 3 things will last forever: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. And now Psalms 37, 1 through 11. Don't worry about the wicked or envy those. That brought me peace in my mind. I don't know if you can tell, there were specific parts of that verse that brought me peace in my mind. That first verse had me conflicted, had me feeling conflicted as I was reading. I couldn't focus on reading that. I don't know why I can't. I don't know what's been an issue with that recently. I've noticed it recently. It's hard to focus on some of these scriptures when I'm like not vibing with what's being said. But I know that's not the whole point of the scripture, right? I know that's not the whole point of the scripture, and I know it is kind of, it's going to trigger me. It's going to trigger me to read sometimes, definitely. But I know all the violence isn't the point of what I'm reading. The violence isn't the point of what I'm reading. And everything will come together as I continue to read. Everything makes sense as you continue to read. But it's just sometimes it's just hard to read when I can't focus. When I can't focus on the material because my mind is reacting to things. But that's more on me than it is on the word, to be honest. But now Psalms 37, 1 through 11. Don't worry about the wicked or envy those who do wrong. For like grass, they soon fade away. Like spring flowers, they soon wither. Trust in the Lord and do good. Then you will live safely in the land and prosper. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you your heart's desires. Commit everything you do to the Lord. Trust him, and he will help you. He will make your innocence radiate like the dawn, and the justice of your cause will shine like the noonday sun. Be still in the presence of the Lord, and wait patiently for him to act. Don't worry about evil people who prosper, or fret about their wicked schemes. Stop being angry. Turn from your rage. Do not lose your temper. You don't unleash the harm. For the wicked will be destroyed, for those who trust in the Lord will possess the land. Soon the wicked will disappear. Though you look for them, they will be gone. The lowly will possess the land and will live in peace and prosperity. And now Proverbs 21, 23 to 24. Watch your tongue and keep your mouth shut, and you will stay out of trouble. Mockers are proud and haughty, and they act with boundless arrogance. And now the symptoms of love. The symptoms of love. Yeah, forgive my childishness sometimes. Now, the symptoms of love. A person who's overtaken by illness recognizes that is experiencing symptoms. Similarly, when we are overtaken by love and full of love, there are loving symptoms. When we love, we are patient with others rather than rude and demanding. We do and say kind things rather than proudly boasting about ourselves. When a man loves someone, he doesn't give up on them. He endures through tough times and remains hopeful for the future. Those who those are the recognizable symptoms of love. Let's ask ourselves, is my life lovingly symptomatic? Now, child, I'm turning off this camera, ask for clarity, discernment, and wisdom today, and I'll be right back. What's up, chat? Welcome back. Um, so I'm gonna talk about one thing, and then we're gonna read the synopsis. Um, Not really. Hold up. Give me 1 second. Actually, perfect page flip. So before we do anything, or we can continue speaking on anything, let's first just go over our verses for tonight. So, chat. Tonight we're from Esther 8:1 through 10, and we read from 1 Corinthians 12:27 through 13, and then Psalms 37:1 through 11, and then Proverbs 21:23 to 24 to wrap up tonight's read. This is not a night where we're going to just skip all the way to the end. So in Esther chat, Esther 8:1 through 10, um, we see how the tides have been turned. Now, something that made it hard for me to read was when when they were put back in power, they immediately went to taking people out, and I just couldn't agree with that. You know, um, so we'll see how that's going to work out here in the future. Yes, they did gain their power back. Yes, they did gain their position of power back. Yes, God did save them, but when God did save them, they went immediately to start massacring folks. 75,000 people is kind of crazy, to be honest. Um, and they may come back. They might come back. They could have turned the other cheek. They could have loved their neighbor, but they were upset. They were. I'm not sure if they were led by anger or not, or what led them. But killing 75,000 people is crazy, to be honest. That's not what I was expecting to happen from there, and that's just what it was throwing me off while I was reading. Um, but let's hop into 1 Corinthians 12:27 through 13, um, and let's hop to here, verse 4. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, and is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. This is why love is in true love. And it's crazy how I spoke about what I spoke about, and then we read what we read today. And that gives, and now I can give clarity on what I said before. Um, so saying I love myself, but then not following through, that's not true love, right? Um, saying I love my wife, but not being willing to do anything for my wife, that's not true love. God is calling us to love our neighbors like He will love your wife, like He will love your son. Look out for your neighbor like He will look out for them. But you can't love your neighbor unless you love yourself. So before you learn to love your neighbor, you have to learn how to be nicer to yourself and be actually nicer to yourself. Not brag when you feel good about yourself, only temporarily. Not be boastful, not be proud, but to genuinely love yourself for who you are completely, so you can truly love your neighbor, right? And that's why I said before we started reading, I want to actually be nice to myself. Not be nice to myself when things are good, but be nice to myself when maybe I think it may not be so good. I feel like I had that down packed at some point in my life, but but I kind of lost it a little bit. But anything that's lost can be found. And it's just going to take me, you know, trusting God and being a little bit more intentional. The answer I was looking for has presented itself to me. And you know, as I got my answer, I hope that if anybody was experiencing the same thing, they got theirs too. But let's keep on reading. But maybe let's read that verse one more time. 1 Corinthians 12:27-13, and this is verse 4. Love is kind and patient. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but it rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, and is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. And now chat Proverbs 21:23-24. Watch your tongue and keep your mouth shut, and you will stay out of trouble. Mockers are proud and haughty, and they act with balanced arrogance. I don't know if you can. A lot of things that I think about saying, chat, I don't actually say, and I learned that a lot growing up. Everything that does not need to be said, right? And that's really what this verse calls for. Everything does not need to be said. Burst of anger where you shout and say a bunch of spiteful, angry things. They don't need to be said. Things that overcomplicate stuff don't need to be said. You know, an unconstructive criticism, you know, it doesn't need to be said. What's up, baby? Oh, y'all can't see him. It's so cute. You said on my thing, but now you can see him. Hey, babe, say hey. What are you doing up here? What are you doing up? Ouch! He hit me in the lip. You need to go outside. Okay, Chad, we're about to wrap up here. My page turned. There you go. Yeah. Honestly, he hit me in my lip. My lip kind of hurt a little bit. He hit me in my lip. He hit me in my lip, bro. It kind of hurt a little bit. I try to play it off, but my lip hurts. You hit my lip, fool. Man, that's crazy. Oh, man, that's funny. You hit my lip. You hit my lip, bro. He stole me, rocked me, two-pieced me. Actually, it was a single strike, but I mean, man, threw me right off. But hey, I don't think I was going anywhere there, anyways. All it is everything doesn't need to be said, and that's a good lesson for me. That's a good lesson for everybody. And I'm not gonna lie, chat. Today is the first day. This evening, I'm gonna do my best to be nicer to myself when nobody's watching. I'm gonna do my best to be nicer to myself when nobody's watching. You know, I'm gonna do my best to be nicer to myself when nobody's watching. You know, when the wife's not here, it's a lot easier to be kind of mean. To be kind of mean, but I'm gonna do my best to be constructively nicer to myself when nobody's watching. Um, yeah, it's gonna start with me. It's gonna end. I don't know. I'm gonna say and end with God. That's what I'm gonna say. That's what I'm gonna say. You know. So start with me and end with God. Maybe start with God and end with me. I don't know. I really I truly don't know. But I honestly, definitely being nicer to myself. When nobody's watching. Being nicer to myself when nobody's watching. Definitely. But honestly, I took a lot. I took this from today's word. It's like this was confirmation to myself. Um, I did not pre-read this verse. I guess this is just confirmation to myself. Um, I guess God don't like how I've been treating myself, and He said, "Hey, open the Word, read the Word, son. I'm gonna leave this on this very day right here. You're gonna find it. You're gonna read it on that day, and you're gonna realize you need. I need you to change how you've been treating yourself. I need you to treat yourself better." And you're right. You're absolutely right. Absolutely. Absolutely. But now, chat, this is the end of the day's 1 year Bible read. Um, well, my shirt a little wrinkled. It's not wrinkled, I promise. Why I got no shoulders? I promise I got shoulders. You know. But this has been the today's 1 year Bible read. This is day 232 in a row. Um, thank you for joining me on the Limitless Core channel for another 1 year Bible read. Honestly, I left this read in way higher spirits than when I joined it and when I started it. Not gonna lie. Um, Glory to God. Honestly, not gonna lie. You come through every time. Every time. Sometimes I'll be mad. I'll be thinking it's not happening. But hey, they didn't even expect it. It made me feel better. Oh man. But I gotta let my boys out use the bathroom, so I'm gonna end the stream. Let's hit this outro. We all got that limitless core, baby. I appreciate you. I might even love you, but I'm for sure glad you woke up today. Ooh, hair kind of messed up. Hey, but thank you for your presence as always. My shirt look like it's kind of small, but I promise I just got these. You know, maybe I'm getting bigger. But hey, I appreciate the presence as always. You know, whether it was for a minute, a millisecond, a second, or if you've been with me for a while now, just thank you. I appreciate it. And you hear the boys? It's time for me to be out of here. They said see you later. They said bye. Y'all see y'all later. Y'all have a great rest of the night. 'Cause my verse mine. Peace.